My name's Eli Delaney, and I have the honor of meeting some pretty cool people. These are the entrepreneurs, the artists, the creatives, the game changers that are making a positive impact in the people that they meet. And I'm a firm believer that the people that you meet can get you anywhere you want to go. And this show is my way of sharing them with you. It's my way of also helping you meet cool people. All right, welcome back to another Meet Cool People show. Eli Delaney here, and I have this amazing gal that I met a while back, and it's funny, we've been in multiple different conversations here. Lori Saitz. She is the founder and CEO of ZenRabbit, who helps clients transform from chaos to peace no matter what's happening around them. She is the host of, and I have been a wonderful guest of, I was very proud to be able on here, the Fine is a Four-Letter Word podcast, and is currently living the nomad life while cat-sitting in states across Southeast U.S. Welcome, Lori. Thanks for coming and hanging out today.
My pleasure to be here. I'm so excited for this conversation because I know it's going to be good.
It always is. We have some really cool conversations, and I find that it's hilarious because you and I actually met through SCN, even though we're like totally not, you're not here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which is where SCN is primarily at. But we ended up finding each other in like multiple different groups in different places. And then all of a sudden, after we'd already started talking and had a cool conversation, and then we just, cool conversation, moved on with life. But then I get this call from our mutual friend, Adam Homey's assistant, and says, "Hey, you want to be on this podcast?" I'm like, "Hey, wait a minute. I know that gal. Yes, of course I want to be on that show." And of course, that's how I got to be on the Fine is a Four-Letter Word show.
Yes. And it was a particularly good episode too.
Well, thank you. I had fun with it. It really was a blast.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about your background. Like, what is ZenRabbit? I gave you a little bit of a description, but kind of go into a bit more detail on that.
Yeah. So right now, ZenRabbit is essentially a health and wellness company. What I do is I work with business leaders to teach them tools and techniques that they can use for staying calm no matter what is going on in their life and in their life, whether it's their work life or their business life. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe it's more of a work-life integration. So if things are going sideways at work, it's going to affect your home life. If they're going sideways at home, it's going to affect your work life. So these tools and techniques help regardless, eradicating stress and staying calm no matter what. Who doesn't need that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's, I love the way you said that too, because definitely you should go back because you'll enjoy this. I had an episode with Kevin Breeding not too long ago, and he and I actually had this exact same conversation about the work-life balance thing. It doesn't exist. We called it harmony.
Yes. In fact, I was just talking to somebody earlier today who used that same term.
Did they?
In this way. Yes. He said he calls it work-life harmony. Or
I love it.
Harmony. Yeah.
What's funny is that came to me. I was actually in an event in Houston in February, and something came up about the same conversation. And I was like, it's not a balance, it's a harmony, because it's never balanced. Because a balance, you think of like a seesaw, but it always goes back and forth. It's always going to be moving, but living in harmony is a whole different conversation. And that's where it first came in. And then like Kevin and I have this conversation on the podcast, a few weeks back. And now you're saying that somebody else did is too. It's like, there's something to that.
It's catching on.
I love it. Awesome. So when a client comes to you, where are they really at? Like, what types of clients are you working with? Small business, bigger businesses, CEOs, give us a little bit of history on that side.
Yeah. In the past, I've worked primarily with entrepreneurs, business leaders, and done a small group or individual kind of coaching things, mentorship, coaching, leadership thing there. And in the past few months, I've really focused my efforts on working with business leaders within corporations, within organizations, to help their teams. Because I think as entrepreneurs, the entrepreneurial journey is the biggest personal development journey you can possibly go on. And corporate doesn't have that. Like, people who work in corporate don't have exposure to the same kind of tools and information that entrepreneurs find. And so I want to bring this to them because corporate life is stressful.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing I always find with it is like we as entrepreneurs, we are seeking that information. It's like I think it's part of our DNA. It really
Yes.
is we want to better ourselves. We are achievement entrepreneurs are achievement focused. And so personal development is a great thing. I mean, for me, I didn't even know what an entrepreneur was until I was 21. Okay. Like 21, maybe even 22, honestly. Yeah, actually it would have been closer to 22. I didn't even know what it was. I sure as hell couldn't spell it.
Uh-huh.
And
Can you
so
spell it now?
yeah, only if I can see it and I got to do a spell check.
Okay.
Um, but if I thought about this actually a while back, I thought about this. I wasn't even introduced to the term personal development until, at that point I'd been in business probably 2 or 3 years. And I was, I was, well, I would be 24-ish, right around there at the time. And I had no clue what was personal development. What does that mean? The I think it's one of those things that nowadays it's gotten so popular. That's a good thing because of the fact that we have access to it now. People understand what it is and why it's important, and the fact that you're bringing it to the corporate side. Because again, as us entrepreneurs, we tend to look for that stuff to begin with, but on top of it, we are now exposed to it because you and I are friends, and we meet
Right.
other people that are friends, and then we hear about it from each other. Where a lot of corporate culture, they're focused on what's on Family Guy tonight.
Or what do I have to do to finish this report?
Yeah,
So, yeah, they just don't even have an awareness that it exists, much less how does it relate to them.
yeah, definitely. And I think it's good that you're doing that. Let's talk about, if you're like, say for instance, somebody who's got a business and they've got employees, they've got staff. What are some of the steps they should be looking at to help bring their staff in here? Well, actually, let me back up before we go to that question. I'll let you ponder that one a little bit. But why is it important? Like, what are the things as the owner of a business? Maybe I got 10 employees underneath me. Why is it so important to bring these concepts to them when I'm used to it in my world? Because my friend entrepreneurs do this, but a lot of times it doesn't filter out. So why is it important to bring this to your team?
Because the tools and techniques that I'm teaching are helping people manage the thoughts in their head. So even as the business leader, you think you know personal development, you think you've been immersed in it, and yet you can sit somewhere and look at something and not be focused, like I'm just not being productive today. And so it's a matter of helping people be more focused so they can be more productive, so they can ultimately be more profitable. And then the side benefit that may or may not be interesting to businesses, I think it should be interesting to them, is that people are healthier. They have better relationships. There's more collaboration. There's more creativity. There's more innovation going on within your organization.
No, I love that. And it is, I think you said the biggest thing is when you have those kind of situations, you become more creative. And as somebody, if you've got staff, you want them to be creative. You want them to be innovative. And if you don't have that creativity, which this is where I'm gonna go in just a second. If you don't have that creativity flowing, it makes life really rough. I mean, and we can back this up, and I'm gonna have you talk about this in a second, is as an entrepreneur, I know when I'm stressed out and I got things going on in life and I have all the chaos, as you put it, the chaos is going on. I definitely don't do my best work. I don't come up with new, fresh ideas. I noticed, like as you and I were talking before we started recording, that I tend to write a lot because I'm a writer. I love writing, and I don't write. And when I do write, I go back and read it. It's like, this wasn't really as great as I thought it should have been. And because the creativity isn't there, because my brain is too occupied by the chaos that's going on. So with all that said, what are some of the first things people need to think about first to be aware of what's going on? And secondly, what are some of the first steps to start to be, can we start handling that?
To be aware of, you're looking at the community. Are there communication issues in your team? Are there engagement issues in your team? People are not engaged, they're not participating? Is there retention issues? Are there retention issues? Grammatically correct. Those are some of the things. Is it taking people a really long time to finish a project that you think should take them 2 hours and it's taking them 10 hours? Those are some of the things that you might be looking at that would indicate that there's an issue. Is there, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, people aren't communicating properly. They're not collaborating. They're like sabotaging each other. Like, there's not,
they're not engaged.
They're not engaged, but there's not, I'll go back and use the word harmony. There's not harmony in your team. Everybody's very protective of what they're doing, and they're not asking for help. They're not looking to collaborate. Things are siloed.
Right. They're isolating them.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one too. Okay. So if you're seeing that if you're seeing that from your employees, what are some of the steps to help them get back on track, to get them re-engaged, to make them feel like you're there? I mean, that's one of the biggest things, is a lot of times employees don't feel like the boss cares. Like, so
Right.
what are some of the things that we could do to bring them back into the fold so they are more engaged?
Encourage curiosity is one thing. I actually just published an article on this in my LinkedIn newsletter today, in fact, on curiosity, and in encouraging people to be curious. And along with that, encouraging people to explore different ideas and not be afraid of, and I'm going to use the word failure, but my definition of failure is very different from most people's. And my definition is that you did not get the result that you were expecting. If you were doing an experiment and you expected to get outcome A, but you got outcome B, that's a fail. Like, that's not even a failure, but like, if you look at the traditional way of using the word failure as that, like, you just didn't get the outcome you were expecting. It's not terrible. The world's not ending. What can you learn from that? And so when people feel like it's okay to explore and maybe not get the intended result, but they learn from it so they can take it forward and put it to use somewhere else, like, that has to be okay. So many people are afraid of making any mistakes that they won't step out of their box. And so creativity and innovation doesn't happen. And creativity and innovation, though, is essential to winning in the marketplace.
Yeah, definitely. And that is, I think that's really a big one to figure out. Okay, it doesn't work this way. What's next? And I even, you were talking about, you just posted something about this. I had something, I don't remember if it was today or yesterday, because it's just, everything all blurs together anymore. But I posted something about leadership and being solution focused as opposed to blame focused.
Yes.
And what do you learn? And it's like, okay, if somebody makes a mistake, that's, number one, be calm about it. They made a mistake. Mistakes happen. We're human. Mm-hmm. But the second thing is, did they learn from it? And what do we all learn from it, depending on the situation? Right. It's like, okay, we may think that, we wanted product, or we wanted result A and we got result B. It's like, okay, well, was that a mistake, or was that just a learning experience of how to not do it next time? And
right.
those are the kind of things we just have to think about. And from a leadership standpoint, that's what I'm always pushing that. It's like, okay, that didn't work. What's our solution? What's our next step? Mm-hmm. And it's so much better to think about that, because then, like, my team, they're not an in-house team. I have virtual staff. But when I work with them, if they make a mistake on something, the first thing I say, okay, it's like, okay, you didn't listen to this part. We need to fix that. Here's what you should have done. Mm-hmm. If the result was like, if they did it, but they just misunderstood it, I can tell that. I can tell the difference between, did they read it or did they misunderstand it? And if they misunderstood it, I will say, okay, I think you misunderstood this. This is what I meant to say. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden they're just like, oh, okay. They're way more relaxed and happier about the fixing of the solution.
Right. Well, they have to feel safe. Yeah. Like, that's the key. One of the key things about building strong teams is that people have to feel safe no matter what. They have to feel safe saying, hey, like, the emperor has no clothes. Everybody else is saying we should do X, X is the solution. Everybody's like, yes, yes, yes. But somebody sees, an angle that nobody else is seeing. They have to feel safe enough to speak up.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that for me personally, I'm a big one of, It definitely, I always tell my team this is like, if you see something that there's a better way to do it or something's not going to work, you are more than welcome to tell me, but you have to give me another solution. And
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like the rule up front is like, if this isn't going to work this way, you got to come up with what will work. What's a different option?
Mm-hmm.
And the great thing about doing that is it gives them the power. Like they feel empowered and feel like I actually listen to them. And I've even told them, I was like, there will be times where I still want it done my way. And just know that's going to happen sometimes, but that's not a definite, and it doesn't mean anything against your way. Just I want it done this way.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's going to be that way, but I want to hear your idea, because if I think your idea is better, I surely wanted to start going that direction. And they are more forthcoming and more, I'll go back to the same word, they're more engaged, because now they feel like they've got a say in the whole thing, and they've got a vested interest in it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
That is awesome. So let's kind of back up a little bit. We have a lot of the clients that I work with personally are solopreneurs. They might have a couple of VAs, kind of like myself, but you and I have talked about this before. We talked about it on your podcast, as a matter of fact, which was the chaos. So like, what happens when you are in that situation and you're just, life sucks. Okay. So those kind of things happen. As somebody who, most solopreneurs tend to be solopreneurs, and I have that in air quotes for everybody listening, they have that term because they think they have to do it all themselves. As your podcast says, fine is a 4-letter word. They're always fine. They'll figure it out. They don't ask for help. What are some of the things that people need to be aware of, or self-aware of is a better term for it, to watch for the things that are causing them to sabotage themselves when they should be asking for help?
I think the biggest piece that a lot of entrepreneurs miss is that they're constantly go, go, go. I gotta tackle this mountain, or climb this mountain and tackle this challenge and do these things. It is equally, if not more important, to find time to be quiet enough to hear your own inner voice. And whether you call that intuition or God or whatever you want to call it, that inner voice, that inner truth that only you can hear. You can collect all the advice and well-meaning counsel from everybody around you. And at the end of the day, you have to feel what is the right thing for you. And so making the space and time to get to some place that, whether it's journaling or meditation or taking a walk in the park or whatever, doing that, to me, is the one thing that entrepreneurs need to do more of, but they think they can't because they have to constantly be doing, like taking action. And if you step back and stop taking action for 10 or 15 minutes a day, you will find you can be more productive when you come back to do the action.
Yeah. And I'm just going to say she just hit me in the heart with that one, because she and I have actually talked about this. We talked about this before, about like my hobby being archery. And for me, that has always been the place that I can go clear my head and go walk the range. If I can, I try to do an outdoor range where I'm outside walking, usually it's a couple miles to walk around. And I can tell you that when I do that, my head is so much more clear. I'm so much more focused. And when I don't do that, it is exactly the opposite. And I'll tell you, I'm suffering from that right now, because I've been going like mad, been going crazy with a lot of different projects going on. And I haven't stopped and taken the time to go to the archery range. Now, one of the things that I always, I've been telling people is like, you need to make that time. That is very important. You have to take a day off, and it doesn't matter if you do anything. I mean, I had, it was probably about a month ago now. Somebody was asking me, so what'd you do this weekend? I was like, well, on Saturday I worked because I had all these other things, but Sunday I was just like, you know what? I just need to take a day off. I sat down and watched cartoons all day.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? I felt so much refreshed out of that. It was just goofy. I just watched nothing important. It was just goofy cartoons. I don't even remember which one I was watching now. DuckTales is a great one to watch, by the way. If you got Disney, it's a good one. And you just give your brain time to relax.
Well,
And
research shows that it's not, you need it.
yeah,
Like people think, no, I don't. I'm Superwoman or Superman or whatever. Like I don't need it. But research shows your brain is a muscle, just like the rest of your muscles. And if you don't rest it, it's not going to work as well.
yeah. And I'll be honest, I'm a stubborn one with this one because I tend to just go, 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 go. I used to go through my first company with a web and graphic design agency. I was putting in 12 to 15 hours a day, 7 days a week. I mean, it was rough, and I learned the wrong way. My big aha moment was when I ended up in the hospital because I had worked myself too hard. And the biggest thing that I think is so critical for people to realize is you have to take that time to recharge. And we don't do it as entrepreneurs. We do think that we have to be Superman. We have to do it all the time. We have to, it's like nobody can do it as well as I can. All the cliche phrases that we say for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
As I see you rolling your eyes there.
Well, all of those things that we say are what keep us from having the business we really want.
Yeah. No, I love it. So some of the things that, what we've been talking about here has been how to find the peace. How do you remain calm with all the chaos that's going on? For somebody who's just starting out as an entrepreneur, they've had their regular 9 to 5, they had it for a while and they decided to jump out. We do know you're going to have to hustle. You're going to have to get started when you start out because that's the way it works. But what are some of the things they should put in, like habits that they should actually be putting in place now in order to make sure that they don't get themselves to that burnout 5 or 10 years down the road?
The two main things I would say is one, find the time to meditate or, find your peace, like 10 minutes a day, even 10 minutes a day to sit and meditate, or like you said, go to the archery range, whatever it is, but give yourself that time every single day. Make it a habit. If you start out your day, I love talking to clients about meditating in the morning because it sets the intention for the whole day. And then you can't also, you're starting your day with it. So you don't get to the end of the day and go, I don't have time for it. And the second thing is finding gratitude for everything. Like people have a tendency to focus on the negative, all the things that have gone sideways and wrong and tragedy and chaos. And okay, and where is the gratitude? Where can you find gratitude in your day, every single day? Like, I'm not saying you have to do a gratitude, list every night, because that's just another chore on the to-do list, but think about it. What can you be grateful for, and focus on that for a few minutes. And if you can't find gratitude in your day, give me a call. I will help you find it. Guaranteed.
Yeah. Well, and that's a habit that I ended up picking up when it was probably before I moved here, which was a little over a year and a half ago. But I actually start the day, 5 things that I'm grateful for. And that's how I start the day.
Mm-hmm.
It goes along with your whole thing. Is like, you don't have an excuse to not do it at the end of the day. But if you start your day in gratitude, it makes the rest of the day easier. It's like, okay. And sometimes that gratitude is, I had enough money to pay rent. Sometimes it's, for me, a lot of times, like one that's pretty much always on my list is my daughter. I'm grateful for her. She's on that list every day. And, sometimes I think a little bit more. Sometimes it takes a little bit for me to figure out what I'm going to do for my 5 things, but they can be simple. It doesn't have to be overly complicated, but if you start your day with that, that's a habit that I picked up. Like I said, it was probably, close to 2 years ago now. And I just, and I've got an app that I put it in. I just, in the morning, I look on my phone and I'm like, okay, what are my 5 things today? And I stop and I think about it. And that starts the tone for everything else.
Yep. That's fantastic. Congratulations to you for doing that.
It's not always easy. And that's one thing, we will have those days where it's much more difficult to do it. But when you get to that point, for me personally, I know that even if I can find something silly and little that I can be grateful for, then I laugh about it and it helps fix the stress.
Yeah. And the more you do it, the more natural it becomes. Because one of the things I hear from people is, well, I'm not a naturally grateful person. I'm just not.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't. Most people
Mm-hmm.
aren't. I would say it's been conditioned out of us.
Right.
But when you start practicing what you're talking about, what I'm talking about, you become a more naturally grateful person. And even when chaos ensues, like,
Yep.
you mentioned I'm living nomad life, and I had a major car issue that I won't go into, but I'm sitting in 6 lanes of traffic and my brakes are locked up. But I immediately went to gratitude. Thank God that the tow truck is coming to get me, and that I have roadside assistance, and that I'm only a mile from my Airbnb, and that, like, all the things, the gratitude just started rolling, even though I'm sitting there, my car doesn't move, and I'm stuck in traffic.
Right. Yeah. No, that is great, because then you can just go back and have a different perspective on it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I want to give us a little bit of background on your podcast. The Fine is a 4-letter word podcast. Like I said at the beginning, I was honored to be a guest on it. We had a fun conversation. I really had a blast with it. Give us a little bit of history. What is it, and what kind of stuff are you talking about on the show with your people?
Yeah, we're talking about stories of a time when you said everything was fine, but it was not fine at all. And the reason I started the podcast, and it's been 3 years now, we're coming up on 150 episodes, is because, one, I talk to a lot of people who feel like they have, from the outside, their life looks amazing. They have, the job, the family, the clothes, whatever, but they feel empty. And they look at what they have and they go, man, why can't I be happy with this? There must be something wrong with me. And so, one, there is nothing wrong with you. It's your soul crying out for growth. And two, you're not alone. Listen to these other stories of other people who have been in places that some of them will make your like head want to explode. Like, how could somebody be living in that and still saying it's fine? Not that it's a comparison, trauma is not, it's not a trauma comparison, but it is sometimes comforting to know that you're not alone.
No, that is awesome. And I think, you're 100% right on that. I mean, even like, I know your podcast, like I said, I was guest on there, had a blast, had a great conversation, but I know I'm having more conversations with people as well that are running into that same situation. And it's, you never wish that kind of chaos on somebody else, but at the same time, it also is like, you know what? I feel better about it because somebody else is also having this kind of stuff going on. It's not just me. And I think I think we're at that phase of the world where that's important to know, to be aware of it, and by knowing that's not going to solve the problem, but it makes you feel like you're not alone, which I think is, so many people in today's world feel like they're alone.
Oh yeah. Loneliness is epidemic.
Yeah.
And the other part of the podcast is most of my guests have reached a point where they have moved past that stage of their life. And so I'm asking them, like, well, what did you do? How did you do it? And so people who are listening can, have hope that they can move past it too. And maybe they can learn something that they can apply to their life.
Yes. It's awesome. Yeah. And as a matter of fact, this was actually, I'll put the link to our show, because I actually talked way more public about Bushido and my archery and all that kind of stuff, because that was actually what helped me through a lot of the chaos that I had. Awesome. So cool. Okay. We are getting close to the time here. So I got 2 final questions for you. Second to last question. This is the Meet Cool People podcast.
Oh, it is? Wait a second. I thought.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know.
I'm kidding.
Yeah, it wasn't the hang out with the crazy purple dude show. Yeah. It's the Meet Cool People podcast. So what does meeting cool people mean to you?
It means excitement. I mean, again, going back to why I'm doing nomad life, in one part of the reason why I'm doing nomad life is so that I'm out traveling around and I'm getting to meet people that I've only known virtually, or I'm getting to reconnect with people I haven't seen in years. Like, I'm having lunch later this week, with a friend that we were friends since we were babies, like pictures of us at each other's first birthday parties, but I probably haven't seen her since I was 10. And she lives here and where I am now, and we're going to meet up. And we had a conversation yesterday. It's like we just picked up like where we were as 7-year-olds, and I mean, the conversation was a little different, but it was just as comfortable. And so I'm getting to meet cool people while I'm out here doing nomad life.
I love it. That is awesome. Very cool. All right. Well, people are going to want to get a hold of you, want to catch more of what you've got going on. I know you've got your LinkedIn newsletter, you've got the podcast. What's the easiest way for people to get a hold of you so they can follow all the amazing stuff that Lori puts out?
LinkedIn is where I spend most of my time in terms of social. So find me on LinkedIn, or you can reach out to me through my website, which is ZenRabbit.com.
Which I love that name, by the way. Awesome. Well, Lori, thank you so much for coming and hanging out with me today. It has been a complete pleasure.
My joy. Thanks for having me.
All right. All right, everybody, get out there. Have an amazing day. Hopefully you got some great stuff out of this. Be sure to go follow Lori. And if there's anything I can do to help you out, you know how to get a hold of me. Reach out and just let me know. Take care. And that wraps up another Meet Cool People show. Now, if you like what you heard, be sure to give us a like, subscribe, or review so I can help introduce these amazing cool people to even more amazing cool people. And just remember, meeting cool people is just the beginning. You need to have a system in place to follow up with the amazing people that you meet. This is exactly what we do for our clients. If you'd like to see if my team and I can help you, go to followuprockstar.com and check out the case study video to see exactly how we're helping our clients turn casual connections into cash clients for life. Again, go to followuprockstar.com and we'll see how we can work together to turn you into a follow-up rockstar.